When you're enjoying Thanksgiving with your family. I think it is a beautiful time of the year when the families get together before, you know what I mean? It's like Thanksgiving is like a kind of a starter, like a starter Christmas, right? It's the time where everybody's transitioning from the freaky Halloween, you know what I mean, when everybody can act, you know what I mean, terribly, and then there's Thanksgiving where it's like more of a, what do you call it? It's like more of a, you know what I mean? It's kind of like a formal, black tie event, right? It's more nice. It's a lot kinder. It's a lot more of a together holiday. And because it's such a together holiday, it's a time for the family to come together and you know what I mean, and be with one another and love each other, surrounded by food. And yes, it sometimes is dysfunctional. You know what I mean? People be going through it. You know what I mean? I'd be lying if I said I didn't watch. You know what I mean? Some of the crazy Thanksgiving crash outs. You know what I mean? Some of the people just absolutely getting into fights and arguing with one another. Right? Ruining Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting. You know what I mean? Obviously the dynamics and everybody arguing and like kind of seeing that dysfunctional thing in it. Right? But when it's you, it's kind of like, oh, you know what I mean? It's such a terrible feeling. And the fact that people record it and then post it online for other people to see, I think it's a little funny, but at the same time, it's like, it's also not me. So it's like, you know what I mean? But it's all about a balance. You know what I mean? I feel bad, watching it, but at the same time, I'm like, this is pretty funny. So anyways, all of that to say is I thought that this episode, it would be really funny to look at some Thanksgiving failures, you know what I mean? Some Thanksgiving mess ups and kind of like some funny stories that I see online. So this first one that I got right here is called The Year We Had to Eat Thanksgiving Dinner at McDonald's. Now, I'm the title alone, you know what I mean? It gives you so much to work with, right? It's like obviously somebody messed up, but you don't know who it is, right? Thanksgiving at McDonald's, that's wild. That's, you know what I mean? That's a quarter pounder with cheese for Thanksgiving. That's a little bit out there, okay? Now, is that wrong? I'm not going to say it's wrong. You know what I mean? Thanksgiving has become so commercialized to be this turkey and ham. You know what I mean? Like it's been made to be this one thing, this traditional meal that it's like it could really be anything, as long as you're all there together, as long as you're all in each other's company. That's what it's all about. The food aspect, the traditional turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, that kind of stuff is like, yeah, that's good. That's well and good, but it's also like, it's not the main thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not the end all be all. Anyways, I'm going to get into this, but first I have to say, I don't think it's awful, but at the same time, they're saying it like, you know what I mean? They messed up. So obviously, if you plan Thanksgiving dinner to be one way and then you have to go to McDonald's, you know what I mean? Then it's kind of like a failure. But if you just are like, you know what? We're just going to have burgers I think I said this before, but they should make like, you know what I mean? You could totally diversify Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Make turkey burgers for Thanksgiving, and then you put like mashed potatoes on top with gravy, and then like maybe a cranberry sauce on the under of it, right? Like you make it a meal. You know what I mean? And you just like you make it a Thanksgiving sandwich, right? Like that's what it's really all about. But anyways, I've definitely said that before. I've definitely talked about how you can make Thanksgiving a lot different. But anyways, this is the story, and I'm going to read it, okay? 'Twas the night before Thanksgiving, and I was in charge of making the dinner. I was fresh out of college and had never cooked a turkey before, but I was confident that I could do it. My family was counting on me to make a delicious Thanksgiving meal, and I was sure I could deliver a feast to be remembered. I followed the instructions from Martha Stewart herself to a T. Or so I thought. I spent hours stuffing, trussing, and preparing the turkey and all the trimmings. But when it came time to put the turkey in the oven, I accidentally turned on the broiler instead of the oven. Soon the whole kitchen was filled with smoke and the alarm went off. My family came running into the kitchen to see what was going on just as I pulled the scorched and still raw turkey from the oven. I was so disappointed that the turkey was burnt. The side dishes were no better. The mashed potatoes were lumpy, the green beans were also burnt, and the cranberry sauce was stuck to the bottom of the pan. And don't even get me started on the pumpkin pie. Defeated, Dad piled us all into the car, and on Thanksgiving Day, we went to the McDonald's drive-thru. It wasn't the traditional Thanksgiving meal that we were used to, but as we were eating our Happy Meals, we all started to laugh until we had tears streaming down our faces. I never cooked Thanksgiving dinner again. I mean, that is brutal. You know, I've never had the problem of I usually never use the broiler. I never turn on the broiler. I always turn on the oven. So that's never been a problem for me. But I guess if somebody had never done it, you know what I mean, if it was their first time, then, you know, obviously this is a learning experience. And I think they should have I think whoever did this, I don't know who, you know what I mean, they don't give names or whatever. They also don't say like if it was a guy or a girl. I'm going to say it's a guy. But anyways, I'm going to say that they should have redeemed themselves the following year by making it again. That would have been the cool thing to do. I think that would have been, you know, a little redemption arc. You know what I'm saying? Like a comeback, right? Because now you know how to start it all over again. Although the mashed potatoes were lumpy, all you have to do is mash them. Like the green beans were also burnt. That's a bummer. Cranberry sauce was stuff, but all of that gets resolved from, you know what I mean, turning on the oven. So I think that there's definitely room to, you know what I mean? Like, because it was such a disaster, I feel like they could, you know what I mean? They could definitely make a comeback. I think they could have done it better. So never cook Thanksgiving dinner again is wild. I think they definitely should have taken a second crack at the turkey, you know, at least. But, you know, that's just me. All right, the second story is the year my boss came to Thanksgiving. All right. Let me before I read this, let me try to figure out where the story's going to go. Boss, I don't know. She's not dating the boss from the title of it. So maybe boss is lonely, or boss doesn't have, like, can't go to his family because he's working, decides to go over to her or his house, and then it gets awkward because, you know, he's the boss and she's gonna, like, talk about him or her or whatever. I don't know. But I wouldn't invite my boss because I would be my own boss. But at the same time, it's like, you know, if I had to, I wouldn't make it weird. I would definitely try to make jokes, right? I would definitely try to make it awkward and uncomfortable and then laugh it all off, you know what I mean? But that's just me. Anyways, let's get straight into the story. Thanksgiving is a time for family, friends, and awkward moments with the boss. For some, the holiday season is all about spending time with loved ones and reflecting on what we're thankful for. But for others, it's a great opportunity to boost your standing with your boss. Last year, I invited my boss and his wife to spend Thanksgiving with my family. I was gunning for a promotion and was determined to make a good impression. Okay. So I was wrong. I you know what I mean? I thought that the boss might be lonely, but it was to get a promotion. I think that's a cool thing. Okay. Continuing. I had the whole family dressed smartly and had spoken with the kids about how to behave when my boss and his wife arrived. You see, I don't like that. Don't try to fancy it up for the boss. I know he's trying to get a good impression, but it's like either he likes you or he doesn't, you know what I mean? Just be yourself. Anyways, the whole meal had gone off without a hitch. The conversation and the good times had been flowing with ease, and I was sure that we had made a lasting impression on my boss. After dinner, my boss left the table to visit the bathroom. My wife was bringing the pumpkin pie into the dining room when our son began to cry. She placed down the pie on the chair beside her, and we both tried to calm our son down. My boss came back into the room as the commotion with my son was calming down. Without looking, he sat back down on his chair at the table, and we heard a large squelch. My boss looked shocked, and the color drained from my wife's face as she realized where she had left the pumpkin pie. My boss had sat in the pumpkin pie. After the surprise, we all laughed. I let my boss borrow a pair of my pants, and we finished the evening. I'm not sure if we left a good impression on my boss, but I am sure he left a large impression on our poor pumpkin pie. On the chair, she put the pumpkin pie. I don't know, dude. I feel like somebody had to. Okay, whatever. She puts it on there. Look, it's somebody else's story. Yeah, I don't. I feel like it would be funnier if the situation had kind of like you invited whoever this person is, they invited their boss to Thanksgiving. I think it would be funny if like the boss had no choice or like there was nothing else for him to go to, I guess. You know, I don't know. I think I'm kind of thinking in like sitcom terms or like holiday movies where it's like the situation calls for the boss to go over to his house or whatever, you know what I mean? And we make it like funny that way, you know, instead of inviting him and then trying to change your kids and your wife and whatnot. But they had a nice time, you know. The year we all received the same gift. I think they exchanged gifts during Thanksgiving before, like, if they don't see each other for Christmas or whatever. I've never done that. I've never done Thanksgiving gifts. It's just the food and seeing each other. So, you know, I'm not gonna read that one. That's not a good one. Okay, moving on. I'm going to talk about, let's see. Okay. This one is called Uncle Bob Lends a Hand. I spent my first Thanksgiving with my husband in his Irish-Italian neighborhood in New York City. As a newcomer, I was placed in charge of boiling 15 pounds of potatoes. When they were ready, I picked up the pan and surveyed the crowded kitchen for a sink in which to drain them. My husband's elderly Uncle Bob guided me to a small half bathroom and grabbed the steaming pot. He started to drain the potatoes into the toilet, but he lost his grip on the lid and all of the potatoes tumbled in. I screamed, "Oh no!" But Uncle Bob began fishing the potatoes out of the toilet. "No one will ever know," he whispered. "Now just go out there and mash them." Some time later during the meal, my husband's Aunt Tot leaned over and whispered, "Your potatoes are delicious. I think you're going to fit into the family quite nicely." No way. They couldn't just say, "Excuse me," and drain the potatoes, you know, in the sink. Oh, there's no sink in the half bathroom? What is that is wild that they were draining it into the toilet and not the sink. It's a small half bathroom, but there's no. That is awkward. That is weird. Okay. This one is called A Close Shave. I prepared my first Thanksgiving dinner ever in 1960. All right, so we're going back. My husband was a ship's pilot and was not due home until around 3 a.m. Thanksgiving Day. So I ordered a 25-pound fresh-killed turkey from the local butcher. It was delivered in a paper bag the day before Thanksgiving. I put it in the refrigerator to be dealt with later. That night, I fed, bathed, and put to bed our 3 children. I set the table for 16 guests and made the stuffing, sweet potatoes, twice baked potatoes, cranberry sauce, apple pie, pumpkin pie, and more. It was 2 a.m. before I took the turkey out of the refrigerator. As I opened the bag, I nearly fainted. There was the turkey, feathers and all. I tried to pull the feathers out, but it didn't work. At that hour, there was no one I could call for help. I was beginning to get hysterical. I went into the bathroom to get some tissues to dry my tears while I saw the answer to my problem right on the bathroom counter. You can imagine my husband's surprise an hour later when he walked into the house and saw his very tired wife crying and shaving the turkey with his Norelco electric shaver. P.S. It worked fine and my husband is still using his electric shaver. Oh, does that work? There's no shot that works. Electric shaver, shaving the turkey. That is... So they just gave her the turkey with the... Okay. That is wild. I've never... They usually just have them like... She got it from a local butcher, but this is the 60s. I don't think it's that crazy, especially for maybe back then. Now it's more so like, it's already defeathered or whatever, you know what I mean? And then they freeze it and then they ship them out. So... Crazy story. I liked it. I thought it was... I guess it worked. I guess that's one way to do it. I'm just trying to think of like if I opened a turkey bag and it was just like the turkey dead and like feathers and everything, I would be like, what the heck? And then she has to shave it. Ugh. But it worked. It worked in the end. Man, that's pretty bizarre. Anyways. Next one is called cat naps. When the time came to serve Thanksgiving dinner, I mashed the potatoes and spooned them into a beautiful serving bowl. I turned away to get a carving knife for the turkey, and when I glanced back at the bowl of mashed potatoes, I was horrified to see Pepper the cat had decided it was the right place for a nap. Speechlessly, I tugged on my wife's shirt and nodded toward the bowl. Her eyes widened in disbelief, but we composed ourselves, shooed Pepper out of the bowl, and scraped off the top layer of potatoes. Alright, so more of a... I mean, I imagine the cat must have been like, this is like a little cloud. You know what I mean? It must have been warm. You know what I mean? So nice and cozied up on that mashed potatoes. Dude. Imagine if they had like, imagine if there was somebody allergic. And somebody came up in there and they were like, oh, here's our mashed potatoes, you know what I mean? And the cat would just sitting on top of them. And then they just, I don't know if just peeling off or like taking off the top layer helps. Depends on how deep the cat was into the mashed potatoes. But whatever. Bad Pepper the cat. Bad. Okay. This next one is called Mother-in-Law of the Year. So this is a good story. This is a good, you know how like people are always talking about in-laws or like mother-in-laws, how they can always be like a bit demanding or just like there's always some sort of like tension between like a wife and the in-laws or the husband and the in-laws, you know what I mean? So this sounds like a good one. Okay. I had my daughter Sue and her husband Gary to come to my house for Thanksgiving dinner, 1992. I had a ham baking in the oven and a turkey out in the garage where I kept my electric roaster. When dinner was ready, I asked Gary to bring the turkey in to be carved. Soon after, we heard a terrible noise and a loud yell. Gary had lost control of the foil roasting pan, leaving turkey all over the car and garage floor. I was upset, and so was Gary, but I tried to make light of the situation. That's one turkey we won't have to pick meat off the bone, I said. P.S. Sorry I can't type better. I slipped and fell in the garage, right where the turkey grease had been. I've never told Gary. Damn. All right. I don't know why it's called Mother-in-Law of the Year. She just made one joke but Thanksgiving is ruined. I don't know. That was a 1 out of 10 story. He just dropped it. I mean, that sucks. Okay. This next one is called 99% Pure. My girlfriend, brought up by her mother and live-in grandmother, never learned anything about cooking. But with a cookbook and a lot of confidence, she decided to cook Thanksgiving dinner for the entire family. After reading the directions about cleaning and stuffing the bird, she went ahead and did so, then put it into the oven. After a few hours, she checked on the bird and found it foaming all over the oven. She had cleaned it with ivory soap. No. Of course. It's always people who don't know about cooking that literally puts no. What a shame. Okay. This is the last story. These stories have not been so far. I think the best story has been McDonald's Thanksgiving. That has been the best one. Anyways, this one is called Cold Turkey. When Ken and Lydia were given a turkey to raise for Thanksgiving, whoa. They were given a turkey to raise for Thanksgiving. That is cold. Oh, well, I guess that's why it's called cold turkey, huh? That if they kill this turkey, that's messed up. See, I could never do that. I could never raise a turkey for Thanksgiving. I could, if they're going to kill the bird anyway and then put it into the store, then it's like, you know what I mean? I don't feel guilty about it. But they raised this turkey for Thanksgiving. Like, its sole purpose is for this one time of year. That's messed up. Okay, moving on. Lydia took on the responsibility with enthusiasm. All right. She fed it, talked to it, and far ahead of time invited both sets of parents to the big dinner. As the days drew closer to the holiday, though, Lydia became more and more quiet. Her conscience. Finally, on the day before the big feast, Lydia burst into tears and told Ken, "I can't do it." Ken calmed her down and promised to take care of everything. He went outside and after a short while returned with a limp turkey under his arm, trailing a whiff of chloroform. Putting the bird in the refrigerator, he suggested that I go to bed and deal with dinner preparations in the morning. That is wild. Just right off the bat. The next day, Lydia woke early and went into the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator door and out flapped the turkey. He screamed. Her screams brought Ken rushing down to his wife on the floor, and a dead faint and the turkey tottering unsteadily around the room. When Lydia revived, Ken had put the turkey out in the yard where it lived out its life free from stress and fear of extinction. As for us, we decided to go out to eat. No one ordered turkey. So, dude, that is a story. That is a turkey triumph story. That turkey just, that if that turkey could talk, I mean, let's do the story again, but in the perspective of the turkey, okay? All right, so it starts off with, so I was born and then given to a lovely family by two humans named Ken and Lydia. And the woman, Lydia, took full care of me. She would feed me and talk to me, and we were both spending so much time with each other. I loved her, truly. And I think she was planning a big party because she was inviting so many people to come and see me. I thought, man, this woman really loves me. And as the days kept on going and going, the closer and closer, the more bonded we became. And then one day, Lydia started getting a lot more shy around me. She started getting a lot more quiet. She started pulling back as much of herself from me, you know? And then before I knew it, it was kind of like she had suddenly gotten so distant. She was so far away. And I remember she went up to Ken and she started crying something fierce, like somebody had just killed her child, like somebody was really like she was about to die, like she had just gotten told she has cancer, kind of vibes, you know what I mean? She was crying and crying, and she was telling Ken, you know what I mean, how much she couldn't do it, she couldn't do it, she couldn't do it. I didn't understand what she meant. Can't do what, you know what I mean? Perhaps I wasn't thinking about her social anxiety. Perhaps I wasn't thinking about how big of a party this was going to be, and that maybe she just likes a quiet, reserved life, you know? And then I started to feel bad for Lydia. And Ken was kind of calming her down and taking care of her. And he told her something very, very interesting. And he says he would promise to take care of it. He would take care of everything. So before I knew it, he was coming outside to talk to me. You know what I mean? He came up to me. We started talking to one another. And it was really one of those moments where I was like, we're going to figure this out, Ken. You know what I mean? Ken and I, we have our ups and downs here and there, but Lydia and I were really the close ones. And Ken was kind of the one that would come back and forth, back and forth. He would say hi, and then I would gobble at him. You know what I mean? So anyways, he came outside so that we could have a chat and we could figure out what we could do for Lydia. And then the next thing I know, he grabs me. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on there? You know what I mean? You know, I'm not a big, you know what I mean? Like, I like a good hug here and there, but like, you know, he full on was aggressive towards me, and he grabbed my neck, and I thought, okay, this is a little weird. You know what I mean? I've never known Ken to be a choker, you know what I mean? But perhaps that's a side of him I don't know about. But he starts holding on to me a little bit more viciously, and I'm like, okay. I start gobbling. I start going a little weird. Then he puts some sort of a cloth over my beak, and I'm starting to like get, you know, I'm starting to get dizzy. I'm starting to like freak out a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm really starting to feel like I'm about to go to sleep. You know what I mean? And I couldn't fight back, you know? I couldn't fly away. I couldn't scratch him. He had me in like this perfect position. So what was I supposed to do? I knocked out. And the last thing I remember was seeing Lydia kind of walk away, Ken come outside, and then his hand cover my face. And then from there, before I knew it, I woke up in a dark place, like this weird box, and it was super cold. I couldn't really move all that much, and I kept trying to like claw my way out or touch anything, but everything was so cold. I thought it was, you know, the winter was hitting hard, the fall season. It was so cold, and I didn't know what to do. So I figured I'd just wait in here and hold on until everything gets ready, until the party comes. Maybe they were doing something really warm and they wanted to protect me. So I'm waiting there, and I'm just kind of like, before I know it, I'm starting to get really, really cold, and I'm shaking. My feathers are freezing at this point. You know what I mean? I don't know how much more of this I can take, but as time goes on and on and on, you know, you start to realize all the things that matter, you know what I mean? I dreamt of Lydia, and I started wondering to myself, what was Ken really doing? What did Ken put over my face, and why am I here now in this cold, dark place, you know? So The next morning, I start to hear some noises. I start to feel like something's going to happen. And before I know it, it's Lydia. Lydia came down and she started hanging out with me, and she opened the box. She opened the big box, and I decided now's my chance. And I jumped and I started flapping all around, and I was like, whoo, I was like, that was a crazy couple of hours. I was, you know what I mean? I was shaking. I was shivering, really. I was going nuts. And she had the biggest excited look on her face. Like, she was really like, whoa, you know what I mean? She was so excited to see me. And I was like, that's what Ken was doing. He was really just like, you know what I mean? He made the surprise for her, so that way if she could make it through the surprise, she could make it through the party. You know what I mean? Like, that's such a genius idea. I didn't even think of that. And he couldn't tell me, because then I would ruin the surprise. So he had to knock me out, put me in the cold box, and then surprise Lydia. And then once that happened, everything started, you know what I mean? Now everything was really clear. Although I don't know why he put me there all night, but, I slept it off. I you know what I mean? I was pretty cold, you know what I mean? I didn't know what I was going to do, but, I feel like he could have told me a little bit of the plan, you know what I'm saying? But, all's well that ends well, and I popped out. And she was really excited. I mean, she was screaming at the top of her lungs. She was going, ah, ah, you know what I mean? Like, I got her so good. And then Ken came rushing downstairs, and he was like, and Lydia had passed out by then, you know what I mean? She was kind of on the floor, knocked out with me. And then Ken started coming down, and I looked at Ken, and I was like, we got her good, didn't we? And then Lydia woke up, and Ken was kind of like, he was kind of weird, you know what I mean? And he took me outside, and I thought, if anything, he was going to give me like a high five. I thought we were going to like, we laughed about it a little bit, I think, you know what I'm saying? But he just took me outside. I chilled. Well, not chilled. I was trying to, get accustomed to the sunlight again. And after that moment, I feel like we did a really good thing for Lydia. Ken and I, we have like this unspoken bond, really. And I just remember feeling so liberated. I felt so free of any stress and fear. And I was just kind of like, if I could make it through that icebox, and if I could help Lydia, then I feel like I've done my job as a turkey. You know what I mean? And then the party, the party went off without a hitch, you know what I mean? Everybody had a good time, you know what I mean? I think they ate like a ham of some kind. It was really nice. So, all's well that ends well. That's pretty funny. That was from the perspective of the turkey. Man. And I just came up with that on the fly. That's funny. Dang, dude. I can't believe Ken did that to the poor turkey. That is wild. But anyways, I guess that's how, you know what I mean? They used to do it back in the day, but he just chloroformed it and then threw it into the freezer, the fridge. That is wild. But anyways, it's times like that where you're just like, it's funny to have your family around to experience stuff like failures, or, you know what I mean? Just for everybody to be together. So when you're enjoying Thanksgiving with your family, appreciate it. You know what I mean? Take it all in. And then, yes, obviously there are going to be moments of discomfort and maybe arguments and whatnot. But I think it's just really fun to, what's it called? It's fun to have people who love you around you. You know what I mean? So appreciate it, take it all in, and just enjoy the food, enjoy the festivities and whatnot. So, yeah, I wish you guys all a very happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your turkey if you so choose, or whatever it is that you like to eat on Thanksgiving. A big thank you for listening to this podcast. I'm thankful for anybody who just happens to come by this or clicks on it by mistake, right? Like, thank you so much for listening, and have a great Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.